Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. Minister, I think the big question really on everybody's lips is when you're going to do the decent thing and resign, as you obviously now have no longer a mandate. But I think we all know the answer to that as you're still sitting there, so I'm not going to bother asking it, and would instead drag you back to the real world of families who are trying to raise their children and earn a living, and who don't have the luxury of sitting around wondering who's going to be the next leader of the Labour Party or how you're going to divide out the spoils. They want to know what you're going to do to improve their lives, because you've been sent a message in this election that life as you've been dishing it out to citizens can no longer continue in that way. Now, the Taoiseach has told us that he's going to listen to people. So I put it to you that the first test in that regard you're going to be faced with in the next 2 to 3 days in relation to the imminent strike action of Aer Lingus cabin crew, where 1,000 cabin crew members have sent really a last-ditch cry for help with their decision to take to the picket lines this bank holiday weekend. A number of them will be doing it down the road from you in Shannon, in a dispute over rosters, a dispute which, contrary to the expensive and inaccurate propaganda being put out by the company, blaming the intact trade union and staff, is in fact the sole responsibility of management. Now, they have sought to insultingly portray this strike as one in which staff are looking for 32 extra days off, when they know full well that no proposal will see any staff member work any fewer hours or gain any extra time off. All they're asking for is for that time off to be done in a planned and family-friendly way, to have an arrangement which already operates for pilots, to have an arrangement which already operates in all other Irish airlines and across the EU. So the question is, why hasn't it been sorted? And the only conclusion you can draw is it's not about rosters. This is a declaration of war against the workforce. Now, normally Fine Gael would love that. It's really right up your street. But I'm wondering whether the recent election has caused you to rethink, or maybe your friends in the Labour Party will judge you. So my questions to you, Minister, are as follows. Given that you hold a 25% shareholding in this company, which along with the staff is a majority shareholding, do you think that it is acceptable that in a modern economy workers should be shackled to a job with roster duties that can change for 2 hours on the day, 3 hours the day before and 4 hours 2 days before that? Do you think it's acceptable that a company with a government shareholding can refuse to negotiate, refuse to go to the Labour Court? Do you think it's acceptable that they can spend company money taking legal action and advertisements out against their staff? Because if you do, you're more out of touch than we thought. If you don't agree with that, well, what are you going to do about it?
Minister.
Well, first of all, deputies on all sides of the House will be pleased to hear that we're not planning an election. Secondly, most of you would run a mile from it. Don't be pretending. Most of you would run a mile from it.
Right, let's get back to leaders' questions. Thank you.
I'd like to, arising from the deputy's remarks, I'd like to pay tribute to the Taoiseach Eamon Gilmore. I think history will be very kind to Eamon Gilmore. He stood by the people and he stood by the country in the worst crisis since the famine. And I'm proud to serve in government with him. I'm proud to serve in government with him. Eamon Gilmore didn't run away.
Please.
On the question raised by Deputy Daly, I think it's a...
Did you hear me? This is leaders' questions, and on both sides, would you stay quiet and listen to the answer? Thank you.
On the question raised by Deputy Daly, I think it's a very important issue. I think it's a great pity that there's an impending strike in Aer Lingus at the June bank holiday weekend. I think an awful lot of ordinary working people like to take a break at the June bank holiday weekend. A lot of other families want to see their children coming back and their relatives coming in. And you know, it's a very big imposition to place on the ordinary people of Ireland to organise a strike at the weekend. What the merits of it are, you know, there are different views, but I would advocate both sides to use the mediation machinery of the state to see can they resolve this issue. God knows, like you've all preached at me this morning about how the Irish people have suffered. Are we going to make them suffer again for the bank holiday weekend? I think it's unfair, and I think, you know, a lesser initiative should be taken. But I appeal to both sides that they would come together and use the mediation machinery of the state to see can this be resolved.
Deputy Daly, 1 minute.
Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. Minister, regarding the election, I think your words might come back to haunt you in that regard. In terms of the strike, you say that it's a pity. Well, the biggest people it's a pity for are the workers who have sought over a period of 3 years to have an acceptable rostered duty arrangement which would allow them to have a family life. It's the biggest step for them to have to take, and it is only as a last resort. And I put it to you that your answer actually displays an appalling lack of knowledge of the situation on the ground, because for 3 years now, management at the company, a company in which the state holds a 25% shareholding, have refused to engage with the Cabin Crew Committee. In fact, it is a fact that over the last period of time they have failed on 6 successive occasions to attend the Labour Court. Management have issued an instruction to their cabin crew that they will refuse to implement a Labour Court recommendation in that regard. So I put it back to you, Minister. Your government holds that shareholding. Combined with the staff, you have an influence greater than anyone else. Is your answer to this and everything else now going to be shrug your shoulders and let somebody deal with it? Or are you going to use your influence to call management to account, allow these workers work in a decent job that allows them to rear their family and earn a living, not be treated like a commodity, a race to the bottom, driven out of their jobs because of the lack of family-friendly rosters to be replaced by casual labour? But then you probably like that, because that seems to be pretty much akin to